MJF's AEW contract details have been revealed. We've got an update on Elias's WWE status, and WWE are reportedly planning multiple NXT call-ups. Stay tuned for all the juicy deets. So we're going to kick things off over on the AEW side of the fence, taking a look at the enigmatic MJF, somebody who, for the longest time, status was up in the air. Everybody was questioning where we'd be able to see him when he did return to the world of wrestling. Possibly could have wound up being the hottest free agent in the industry at one point.
I still think he will be.
Yeah. But eventually returned to AEW, and obviously that contract situation has been resolved. But this comes from the Wrestling Observer News that are reporting that MJF did an interview with Ariel Helwani to promote the Arthur Ashe Stadium show, in which he said that he got a huge raise in pay to return. Based on things that they'd heard, it was apparently more than $1 million per year. Ooh. And I'm not even gonna question that.
I'm not surprised.
Look at him.
I mean, he's one of the top attractions in the company now.
He's just one of the most contemptible people in the world. Like, he is everything you need.
Yeah.
For
But also at the same time, one of the most hated people. But also, when he appears on TV, the fans can't help but love him.
Yeah. Like, it's like this weird Austin-esque sort of...
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Eventually, I think he will be one of the top faces in the industry.
Oh, for sure.
But it'll not be in our typical, like, blue cut babyface way. He will be still the same MJF, but people will just love him. But yeah, $1 million per year, that isn't a surprise. MJF was looking at all the talent that's around him and who's constantly in the main event scene. We know roughly what money they're making. Yeah. And MJF supposedly was not on that money, but he was probably a bigger draw than quite a few of his peers.
It just didn't surprise me. It sort of surprised me that it's taken this long, I guess. But, you know, he's still a young guy, and it's still fairly early days for AEW. But I just, I figure, $1 million a year, he's worth that, surely.
Absolutely.
In merchandise, in pay-per-view sales, in God knows what else. People just want to get behind him, but also hate him with all of their being at the same time.
I mean, that's MJF's shtick. But there's been no reports recently of a contract extension to it. It looks like they've just given him a raise, which I think is the best move Tony Khan can do, because imagine if he didn't give him a raise and 2024 comes and it's the bidding war and MJF goes, well, they won't offer me this, and they didn't offer me that.
That's where it's going to get serious, because I think once we start seeing some of these initial contracts come to that slow end, it's going to be very much all-out war between any promotion that can throw a hat into the ring, because there are so many talents that people want to get their hands on, reportedly.
I mean, we covered that earlier, There's many talents in AEW that I'm sure WWE want to get their fingerprints all over, and MJF, I'm sure, is one of them.
Well, looking to the WWE side of the fence now, and a return for WWE. This one also comes from the Wrestling Observer and PW Insider, who noted that Paul Levesque made the decision to drop the Ezekiel character, which, it's a shame.
Yeah,
we could have had a whole family of people's names beginning with it. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. I'm unsubscribing. Elias, at some point after his beard fully grows out, is scheduled to return. Ezekiel was written out in an injury storyline weeks ago, so it's not like he's permanently, he wasn't publicly fired forever. He may return Royal Rumble one day.
We were trying to work out how long it would take for him to grow his beard fully out. Like, imagine you're gearing up for your return to TV for ages, and your boss goes, I need you to shave off your beard, mate.
And then 3 weeks later, can you grow it out again, please,
By the way,
mate?
that beard that you've been growing for like 2-3 years, can you just grow it back?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like, how long does it take us to grow a beard?
I can't even grow without it being patchy for about 6 months. I can't live with it.
So a lot of pressure on Elias to grow his full beard out as fast as possible.
He's just stood in a mirror going,
forcing it, because he's not getting back on TV until it's growing.
Just rubbing stuff into
He's just in a room with beard oil, being like, oh, come on.
On to another debut now, this time over at Impact Wrestling, and it's quite a shocking one. We kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but Bobby Fish made his debut at last night's Impact Victory Road. Cut a promo saying that he was surprised at being a lightning rod for the controversy surrounding him right now. He claimed that he was simply just a guy who did his job well. He was interrupted by Shera and Raj Singh. Fish then managed to lock in a heel hook on Singh before the heels retreated.
So they had a little scuffle, a little fracas. But yeah, Bobby Fish cut a promo. He was very just much been like, I wasn't a big fan of the promo.
Right.
It seemed like he was just trying to jump on it being released from AEW sort of thing. Where he mentioned he'll call people out for not being legit talents. Quite clearly a reference to someone he didn't think was a legit MMA or martial artist. But interesting to see Bobby Fish in Impact.
He's somebody who, like, since I saw Red Dragon teaming together for the first time, and I was just like, that's awesome. Like, I really couldn't believe I hadn't heard of them before that, and it was like, I just really I enjoyed both O'Reilly and Fish, but I'm quite curious to see what sort of a legit tough guy Bobby Fish, if this is the route it's going to go, like he's going to be there kind of being the legit MMA style guy or whatever, laying in, more realistic strike, however he's going to go about it. I'm just curious to see how it's going to be, because I think kind of a singles run Bobby Fish is something that I've always been a little bit sort of curious about. Like, how would he do, with just a bit of a solo run?
We've seen Kyle O'Reilly get a solo run out of the two of them. Fish really less. So I think here he'd fit into a really good player coach role. Yeah. In the fact that it helps train the younger, fresher talent that are coming through Impact, but also because he's 45 years old. Yeah. He's had quite a long career, and he's had quite a few injuries, especially in the past year or so. I can't see him being pushed too far up the card in Impact.
No, but I think he's somebody where, say, if you were to put him in like that heelish kind of leader position of a group of younger talents, you could definitely, because at the same time as him raising the status of some younger talent, maybe you'd also have this chance for him to surround himself with people so that he can put people between him and anybody coming his way.
It's a shame it's not Red Dragon or Bobby Fish doesn't have a tag team partner in Impact, because there's some dream tag team matches there. Like, imagine Red Dragon versus
we may see something entirely new.
Yeah, there would be. Yeah, I would love to see him in the tag division with anyone. Him and Josh Alexander would have a really good match. Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Keeping it with NXT there, well, sort of, because he's not with NXT anymore, obviously. This one, it's a bit of a strange one, but apparently along with the greater emphasis on recruiting college athletes instead of independent wrestlers, WWE have introduced a new doctrine for their performance center and developmental talents. Instead of talent spending several years at the PC, WWE SVP James Kimball revealed the company will now evaluate developmental wrestlers every 6 months, and if they're not ready for NXT TV after 2 years, they'll be released. Meltzer reported in The Observer that the new doctrine doesn't just apply to the company's newest signings, and a lot of people in the developmental brand are on the clock right now.
Now, this is jumping off of we covered this the other day in the fact that this was the new doctrine, but the key thing from this is Dave Meltzer's recent comments about it, noting that, the current talents in NXT are on the clock, which that's kind of worrying.
It's very worrying, and I think that, to be in that position where there's this kind of sword of Damocles and an hourglass slowly ticking away in front of you the entire time. You're just kind of staring at it, and the pressure of that must be insane, because the pressure of being in the performance center already, I imagine, is insane. Yeah. The pressure of having them, their expectations upon you for going to the main roster must be insane. So that additional pressure is going to suck. But at the same time, WWE have sort of been accused of, in the past, hoarding developmental talents and hoarding talents like dragons hoarding gold. So, in a way, it's a bit of a worryingly kind of shocking, stressful thing, but it's a good thing in a way, because it's like, well, they're not going to be there for a very long time if they're not going to be there. Like, if WWE doesn't kind of want to utilize them, then maybe they'll be freed back out to go and do whatever the hell they want in the wrestling sphere.
It'll certainly keep NXT a lot fresher, because I think that was when NXT was at its peak. Talent would come in and come out, and they wouldn't all just stay there. Now, unfortunately, we might see more movement up from NXT to the main roster. We've certainly seen that recently. But it also means that folk will leave and maybe come back after they've had a bit of, more experience on the independent scene. If they're an athlete that's not really had a background in WWE or wrestling, I should say, and they go out and get some experience themselves.
Yeah. Well, on the point of talent coming up from NXT, there's apparently a couple of talents that WWE are considering for just that. This comes from The Observer, and he said that there has been at least talk of Gigi Dolan and JC Jane moving up to the main roster. It's been talked about for a while. Of course, They were replacements in the tag tournament for Zoe Starks and Nikita Lyons. They kind of, people were quite excited to see them.
I was really happy to see
Sort of,
Toxic Attraction on the main roster.
I remember at the time we were reporting it like, it's sort of, if this is them getting called up, then it sort of,
makes sense.
They seem like they're ready for it. It seems like they're good to go. So maybe we're just waiting for an appropriate story beat for them to come out.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some sort of key point that they want to get to before introducing them. But I think at this point, given the run they've had in NXT, they've proved they're more than capable of the TV
absolutely.
role and the pressures of that. So, moving up to the main roster is hopefully just going to be that next step for them.
I'm intrigued whether they'll bring Mandy Rose with them to the main roster. Mandy Rose is a very key part of Toxic Attraction, and I think that as a trio they work really well.
Yeah.
Plus, it gives you another trio for Damage Control to bounce off of.
Yeah, and I think, a Mandy return as well is going to always go over well. I think with the main roster audience who don't watch NXT, they'll just be happy to see Mandy back.
Absolutely, but Toxic Attraction have been kind of in a little limbo at the moment because they did appear on SmackDown on September 9th, so 2 weeks ago, and they got a rematch that they would have had in the tag title tournament if they weren't pulled out because of an injury. So they're kind of in limbo in between the two brands, but it looks like they're going to be permanent now.
Well, fingers crossed. But that was it for the second dose of news for the day. We may be back with some more later if there's anything else breaks. So with that in mind, stay safe, have a good weekend. We'll see you soon.